Have one more hand we'll treat you with. Ryan had a fun hand.
One more hand. We got two more hands.
All right, we got two more hands for you guys.
Yeah, and we can release these individually. Okay, so I had a good session last night. Now that we're transitioning out of that was a really, really great interview. Wow, that was great fun. Nick's the man. But this is a 50-cent, $1, $2 with a 50-cent ante from everybody, which is a fantastic format that Bryce has put together on X Poker. I don't know how I'm going to go back to live games, honestly, because the 3-blind format with antes just puts so much money in the middle off the bat that like this 1-2 game plays like your normal 2-5. It'd be a little bit smaller than a 2-5, so it's like kind of in between, but it's just so action. It's great.
Plays like a LA 2-5.
Yeah, exactly. And so here we are, Ryan the Rock with 2 kings under the gun. We're in a 5-handed 1-2. Or 50-cent $1 2. So I'm putting out the 2. Sorry, that should have been made more clear.
It's 50 cent $1 with the mandatory straddle.
Right, exactly. Brycito in the cutoff folds.
Boring.
And Golden Tree is going to be our main villain. Opens the button to 8. Pretty wide VPIP play. He's like kind of ideal for what you would like more or less want to target, like a 3-bet percentage that's like less than 5% and a VPIP that's well in excess of 35. So like he's like, your ideal guy to go after for value because he's just calling too wide and he's not going to put too much aggression on you. Small blind folds, Mikey calls in between in the big blind, and I think this is just the most slam dunk 3-bet spot that there ever was in the whole wide world.
Have to.
And I go 34, and I think it's too small in general. So I used to really screw this spot up.
Absolutely too small.
Yeah, I would royally screw this spot up, and I'd go like 27 and think that was reasonable. I think here I clicked the 4X button, and then I hit the plus a bunch of times, and then I just hit, raise.
He hit the plus twice.
No, you have to hit it because it's the 50-cent thing. You have to hit it. It's so annoying. Yeah, that is low-key annoying. So, yeah, I definitely should have been bigger. I think 36 to 40 is more reasonable here. I think that's really what you should be going for.
Yeah, more 38 to 45 even, yeah.
Yeah, because, like we're deep. Like, we need to get money in the pot. We don't want to, if we get more money in now, we can play a 2-street game with a hand like Kings that plays a better 2-street game.
And we're out of position, obviously.
And we're out of position.
Why we're sizing up bigger. Okay, anyways.
Right. And we get calls from both opponents. So we luckbox our way into getting in all the extra money into the pot that we didn't. So we get a fantastic flop for an overpair. You literally couldn't ask for better. 9-8-5, other than 6-7, which does exist, but I mean, very, very small portion of their ranges. This is great. Mikey puts in the check. I opt to bet 33. I think 1/3 pot is appropriate into 2 people. You could argue to go 40%, but I think anything from here to half pot is reasonable, and anything over half pot is too much. Board texture is really dry. Like, we want to get floated by backdoors. Like pair plus 9-10 of spades. Like there's just so many things that want to see a turn card here that we don't need that much protection here. I don't know if you disagree with that.
How afraid of sets are you?
Not very. I mean, they are definitely in range, but there's just so many combinations of draws of things like pair plus backdoors.
Yeah,
and
I think the sizing is fine.
Way more of that. Right. And I feel like if they do have sets, like I'm either going to hear from them now or I'm going to hear from them on the turn.
If I have a set, I'm flatting this on the flop and then check raising turn,
which I think is a really good point. Other than like exactly pocket 5s.
Yeah.
And even then on this texture, I'm not even sure if I would do that. I mean, I don't know, but we do get raised. Golden Tree puts in the raise up to 114. And it's like straight away, I'm like, this is confusing. This isn't really the texture that you would expect him to have a lot of raises on.
I
When he opens
disagree.
them up,
I
he wants to keep
disagree.
it.
He can have 8-9 suited. He can have 6-7 suited. He can have 10 jack suited that have
Oh,
backdoor.
so you
He can
think?
have a ton of hands. I think this is exactly the board that he should attack you on. I
But
disagree.
I would more make the art. Well, I mean, I don't disagree that he would do that. But I think that wouldn't the argument be made? Oh, well, I guess because it doesn't really matter because they're backdoors anyway. But that it's better to put in like a check raise with those sort of hands out of position and flat them in position for equity realization purposes.
Yes and no. And Golden Tree is a pretty advanced player, and I think he likes to basically just attack boards that you bet on that you shouldn't be betting on. And a lot of the time, we're just gonna have hands that miss. Ace King, King Queen, 10 Jack suited. I mean, 10 Jack suited isn't really a miss here, but like we have a ton of Broadway cards, and he knows he has more of the sets than we do, and he
King, Queen,
knows he has the nut advantage. So he's just gonna put pressure on you, and he's very good at putting pressure on you. And he's actually, in my opinion, one of the hardest players to play against post flop. Pre-flop, I think he overfolds to 3 bets and some other things that we can talk about. But I think he's a very sound and well-constructed player post-flop.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair assessment of him. I don't think there's really anything to do here other than flat. I don't think there's any hands that we would be 3-betting the flop with here. Really, none. Maybe if there's a monotone texture, you could make an argument for doing it with like a set, but
yeah,
no, not with an
so
overpair. We put in the flat. Turn comes the 8 of diamonds, which I think is a really, really good card because it cuts down on like middle set, which I guess is really, I wouldn't expect him to raise top set, but middle and bottom set, that knocks down on those combinations. It does fill up 9-8, but that's only 2 combinations. Jack 10 still out there. I think all in all, it's kind of a neutral-ish card because it helps me
I think
a lot.
I think it's a pretty good card. It reduces.
Yeah.
I mean, he has less 8s here. He can't. I mean, I think it's a pretty good card for you, to be honest with you.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I think that's really what I thought at the time. And I was curious to see like what he was going to size here because with the raise, like SPR is pretty tight, and I kind of figured he was going to go like something like 1/3 here and then shove river or something like that.
Yeah.
And he just opted to just stick it in on the turn. And I snapped in game because that was my plan.
Oh,
that was
I love
plan.
I love
like
it.
once I saw this turn card, I knew I was like, if I'm going with the assumption that I had on the flop, that his range really consists of high value draws that have backdoors and like only a couple of thick value hands, then this turn doesn't really change much. And if he did have a set of 5s, if he did have quad 8s, there's no shot that he's just going to rip the turn here in my face.
Yeah,
he's going to do what I said. He's probably going to go 1/3 jam river. So then why would he be choosing a super polarized size here? It's like, all right, great. If you have 9s full or 5s full, congratulations, you're getting my money. But if you have like Jack 10 of spades,
I
I'm way
agree.
ahead.
He's not really playing his nutted hands like this. It's pretty confusing.
Yeah. And like, that's exactly what I thought. I was just like, this makes no sense.
Snap.
Snap.
What does opponent have? I know the answer. I was there.
He has ace 10 of spades, which I get the raise on flop, but I don't get the follow up on turn. Like if we're constructing properly, like sure, that's a fine hand to raise the flop.
I disagree. With. I like a triple barrel on this board. I love a triple barrel on this board. The turn is not a great card for us. It's not. But what perceived bluffs do we have? 10 jack. Other than that, it's air. Like, you know what I mean? Like what hands are we truly bluffing with? And in this club, it's one thing if we're playing against fundamentally sound, like well-constructed players, like I guess because the type of player he is, the archetype he is. But if this is like testosterone or something, he is never, ever, 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 ever raising this flop with ace 10, 0% frequency.
That's exactly correct. I agree. I agree.
I think my point is, I think he was exploiting the fact that people don't bluff raise this flop enough. So the fact that triple barreling it, his bluffs are 10 jack suited with backdoor. Like this is a little wider than I'd probably give him credit for. Without it, I mean, he just has.
Yeah.
So that for that reasoning alone, I like it for triple. I hate his turn sizing. I don't like that. That is not how you play your nutted hands normally. So I disagree with that. But the fact that he is going to barrel on turn, I don't disagree with, because it's putting your overpairs in a decently tough spot on the river. I mean, the turn isn't a great card, but if the turn was like, yeah.
But
I think
here's
we
what
are
I'm saying. I think in his position, you have way better hands to be doing that with on the turn. I think if you have ace 10 of spades, then you have ace 10 of diamonds. Then shouldn't that be the combination that you're choosing to shove turn with? And if that's the case, then, if we're raising flop,
are we just giving up? Because then if we're getting called and we're trying to put pressure, because your kings and aces should never be folding this flop. But on brick,
Right.
turn river, you're going to be folding at a decent frequency. So we have to have some bluffs in here. I know on paper this might look stupid and like he just punted with ace 10, but I kind of like it. I hate the turn sizing, but I like the fact that he had the ambition to attack you because these positions are under attack and people can print money if they do what he did here. Even though it didn't work here, I like it.
That's the thing. I think I would agree with you if he went small turn and then shoved
Yes,
river.
exactly. I don't like the way he played it.
Then I think that's a little bit more reasonable because that's how he would play his value hands,
exactly.
right? I think his clear mistake here was the turn jam because there's just like, what the hell would he actually do that with for value? Okay, yeah, I guess I can get behind that a little bit more. But then again, my point would be queen jack of spades would be a much better hand to do that with.
I agree.
You want to have some outs, and I guess he does have the aces and out, and that's 3 outs, but 4 is better than that,
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess I don't hate it as much, but I think, even queen jack would be a better bluff here than 9-10.
I'm impressed by your snap, and I like that you followed plan. Ryan from a year ago would have used 3 time banks and called, but he would have been like, what the heck? How am I being?
And that's the thing. No, here's the real difference is that Ryan from a year and a half ago would have been like, oh man, like I have to be really lucky in this spot if I put in this call and be right, like I'd be guessing if I was putting in the call there. This one, I had a plan, I knew what I was going to do. For image purposes, I probably should have tanked for a second and just to let it think, because it's not really a hand that you'd expect someone to snap with.
You owned him,
but I knew where I was at.
I'm snapping that too. Don't gas yourself up. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so this hand might make me look like a little bit of a donkey, but let's. This is a live.
I really like this hand actually. No, I really do. So you're playing 1-3 here. Where are you playing in this?
Spades. It's so Spades is the one that's like 10 minutes from my house, opposed to 45, but they're smaller games. It's 1-3 uncapped, but they play pretty big, but it's the closest game to me. They just don't have bigger games.
That's interesting. So big caveat, but where in Texas are you, and how far
I'm in Seabrook, and from Houston I'm about 45 minutes to an hour depending on traffic from the better games.
And so it's really far to any of like
yes,
far,
very far. Anyway,
Texas is so big that I'm a Connecticut person, so those large states, the geography blows my mind. Neither here nor there.
So anyway, we have queen 10 off, and we actually have a button straddle on. So we straddle to 6. So this whale has all the chips and has literally, he called down with like second and third pair, just hundreds of dollars, like ridiculous hero calls that he should not have been made, but happened to work out for him. So he decides to just limp.
Well, can I ask you a question? Because I can't put the button straddle on here. I wanted to ask: is it a Mississippi straddle where action starts in the small blind, or is it?
It starts in the small blind. Yeah, it's a Mississippi straddle.
So this is a little bit wrong because I can't show a button straddle, but I show him raising to 6, which is really him limping because Bryce has the button straddle on.
Yeah.
Folds to you. You in reality have 6 in here, and he limped.
Yeah.
And what are you doing here at queen 10 off?
I mean, I think you can elect to go either way here, but the fact that we're in position against someone that we have a massive post-flop edge with, I just feel like I can own him a lot, so I want to play a bigger pot. I don't want to play a pot for $12 with this isn't the best hand in the world, but come and get it, Will.
He's also deep, which I think
exactly,
is
and that's why.
When the whale gets chips, like that's like just the best spot to be in the world. Like you just love watching somebody get stacked by the whale.
And he was opening really light, and he's not the type to do this with aces. He doesn't slow play anything. He bet 600 to 200 on an ace queen 5 flop when he 3-bet pre. Anyways.
Okay, so we put it up to year 226.
I know he's not folding.
Interesting. This is what. Yeah, that's fine. A little bit more than 4x.
It's pretty big. I'm doing this because it's a whale. A normal player I wouldn't size this way. I'm saying
that's fair.
Let's play a pot.
We get called, obviously, or else this hand would be pretty boring. And we flop top pair, backdoor diamonds, backdoor straight opportunities. Really good flop for our actual hand. For range, I think it's pretty decent as well. I mean, you know, we've got this board pretty well covered with our range.
So he elects to donk lead for 40, and a lot of people were not a lot of people. Some people in my DMs told me I should have check raised this flop. I think I'm ahead here 99% of the time, to be honest with you.
Why would you raise?
Yeah. I think I'm ahead here 99% of the time, and I want to keep his bluff and range wide. So I'm not check raising this flop like ever, to be honest with you. And I mean, we hold the queen of spades. It's not that relevant because he's a whale, so I'm not putting much on that, blocking his spade draws much at all. So he doesn't have 9-10 suited, and he doesn't have 9s, and he doesn't have 10s. And I also block 10s, but he didn't open pre-flop, and he's not a trappy player. So he either has 9-10 off, pocket 3s. I even think he's opening 3s. So really 9-10 off, 10-3 suited, 9-3 suited. And yes, I'm giving him credit for those. So yeah, I'm just calling here. I don't think there's really much argument for much else. I'm never folding. I'm happy to see him bet.
Yeah, because I'm thinking through in my head, and I'm like, oh, you know, if I were to raise, what would be the argument? You know, the argument for raising would be, you know, are you getting better hands to fold, and are you getting worse hands to call? And I think that the answer is absolutely freaking not. Like, we possess the queen of spades, so we block a pretty decent amount of the middling spade draws that we'd want him to have. Yep. You know, we block top pair. Like this is not a combination that we would want to be raising here against the whale.
He has all spades. He has queen jack. He has 7-8. He has king jack. He has so many hands that he's doing this with. So we call.
Yeah, and we just drive out all of his bluffs. Like what? Yeah, no, absolutely. We want to let him. Well, we want to let him donk. He's going to donk. Let the donks donk. That's 100%. What we should call this. Let the donks donk. So we do. We put it in the call. It turns the ace of diamonds.
Not a good card.
I mean, he limped, right? And you're the opener.
Yeah, so I don't put him. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why I don't put him on like ace X of spades. Any suited ace he's opening. So like I was a little afraid at the time he could just be doing with a literally ace rag with the ace of spades. That's how bad I think he is. I think he's just I think he's capable of doing that. And I think some of his bluffs get here, but not really. He doesn't have ace jack, ace queen, ace like I still feel him ahead. And when he bets,
he really gives it up here with the sizing. Yeah. And here's why I say that. I think in my experience in live poker, and I think you'll agree with this, when you see people do this, where they bet the same amount on flop or on turn, or on flop and on turn, a lot of situations, what I've seen is that this is often a draw. That they're 100%. Betting a second time that same amount, keeping it really small. They're not thinking about the odds and whatever in their head. They're thinking, I've got a draw and I'm going to bet the same amount. I don't know if this whale might be a little more experienced than that, but that's what I'm thinking about in this spot. I'm like, if you're betting the same size twice, this is often just a draw.
Yep.
So I mean, what are you doing here? Are you raising?
No,
to
I'm
get
never
value
raising.
from the draw?
I'm not raising for value. I want to keep his bluffs wide, and I want him to barrel on the river. So I mean, I'm hoping not to see a spade. I'm more afraid of a spade than I am of, say, 8 or a queen or the open ender. I'm more afraid of spades, but I mean, he also has. But I feel like any connected, semi-connected cards, he's opening, like the queen jacks, the 7-8s. I mean, unless he's playing of the offsuit variety. But again, I also block that having the queen. But so I'm just gonna call here.
We're venturing into a dark corner of the range map that most people don't interact with.
Yeah, so we call.
The river rolls off. The 9 diamonds. That's a really good card. It's a really good card.
It's a pretty good card.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he's not double barreling with 9x. Like his spade draw doesn't get there.
Yeah, that's the thing. He could be double barreling with 9x. Like you shouldn't be. You can't imagine a player who's betting when he's only getting called like that. But he is capable. But when he bets 90, I feel like a player of his archetype, when he sees a 9, he's just gonna bet 300, instantly. That's they don't even think. They just massively barrel. Oh, I actually got there.
They're playing the strength of their hand for you, letting you know.
So yeah, I mean, I called pretty quickly, to be honest with you. The strength of his hand seemed to change every single straight. And that's normally a sign that's raising so many flags. Betting the same on the turn. Okay, yeah, you can have some aces here, I guess, but why are you betting so small? When you hit an overcard, if you actually floated me, you're gonna go bigger. First of all, if you have a 9, what exactly are you targeting? It's just so interesting. I didn't think he had a 9. I thought he had a spade draw. I thought it was possibly had a straight draw. And I flick him the call, and he goes, "You're good, nice call." I say, and he like goes to like muck his hand, and he like wanted to see my hand. I was like, "Bro, I called you," and he flips over 8 deuces of spades, and I was like, "I'm surprised he didn't just muck that." Like, but thank you for showing me.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna tell me that you like tried to make him show his hand, but
I
that's
did.
funny.
I did. I didn't say anything. I said,
Right.
I said,
You just said, "Oh, you would have to show me,"
yeah,
because
I didn't even
that's
say that. I was just like, I called you, bro. Like show me your hand or muck it. I don't care. Because I didn't
right.
have to show my hand. I didn't want them to know how light I called. Because that's not that light. But someone at the table looked at me like, whoa. Because I called within like 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah. But, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode.
Wait a
It was
minute.
good
Wait a minute. Before you do the outro, let me at least get the thing off the screen. Now you may do the outro.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was a great episode. We had some good chat activity during, and appreciate Nick so much for coming on. Make sure to check out the Hustler live stream, and we will also link everything in his description, including his book. But thank you guys so much. Ryan, do you have any parting words?
Okay, I mean, really thank you to everybody who's out here in the chat. We had like 10 people with us the entire time. That entire interview was absolutely incredible. I mean, so happy. Bryce and I have gotten so far just by asking people, and just the mantra of the worst thing that can happen is that they say no. And we've been able to interview so many amazing people, and like we're just keep adding them to the list. So